Hey there, spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of the Scaryish podcast.
Woo!
I'm Robin Grace, this is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
And we're back again with more things to tell you about, more interesting, more curious, more mystery.
Is that the sound of a ghost dog in our room? Nope, that is our puppy Anya hanging out with us because in our new recording conditions, we're just going to keep the dogs in the office with us. So we have our Corgi Anya and our Shiba Inu Nymeria. Shiba's sleeping because she's a good dog. If you hear what sounds like a dog toy squeaking, it's because Anya wants attention. And you know what? Fuck it. I'm just leaving it in. She's also barking because she wants us to play with her at 11 o'clock at night. But yeah, guess who's back? Back again. We are back. Tell a friend. Please do, because you know what it is. January Patreon push.
You know what's funny is that this room echoes without you.
I know, and then I add in the reverberation, and it's fucking awesome. So yeah, January Patreon push means that we are having our 1 month out of the year where we take extra time to talk to you folks about the fact that we have a Patreon at patreon.com/scaryish-podcast. That Patreon really, really helps keep the show going. It's donations from you to make sure that we can pay for things on the back end. And on top of that, do a little bit extra. Funny story that you're going to get. Robin makes all these amazing designs, turns them into stickers and magnets and charms and all these other things, and then sends them out to people who are at a specific level of patron over there at patreon.com/scaryish-podcast. She works very hard on it. We like to invest some of the money that you folks give to us back into the podcast and send stuff out to you as a thank you. So she had packaged, I won't say a bunch, a good amount though. She had packaged a good amount of these things to be sent out. And she has this little thing on her desk that she like stores packages on. They stand upright. And she's told me before in the past, hey, can you mail that for me? And I'm like, you got it. I am the official mailer person. I take stuff to the post office and I drop it off. So today I was working and I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to go get some extra stuff for dinner. Because in addition to working full 8 hours, I'm also a housewife, which is totally cool. So I was like, I'm going to go to the store, get something for dinner, cook. So when she gets home, she'll have shrimp scampi and some pasta and some Alfredo sauce to eat. Nice home cooked meal. And you know what? I'm going to drop off those packages too. She won't even have to tell me. We're so in sync. It's going to be one of those moments where it's like, you did that without me asking? Oh, thank you. She got home. We ate. We came in the office. She goes, where are these packages at? I was like, oh, I threw them in the trash, just flippantly, just being sarcastic. She's like, no, seriously, where are they at? I was like, where do you think they are? I mailed them. She's like, they didn't have fucking stamps on them. So there are some folks on our patron list right now who are going to have to go back and repackage and send stuff to make sure it actually gets to you. So right now we're hoping we have enough stuff to send out for those folks. It wasn't a ton. Enough, though, where I'm hoping we have enough and Robin's absolutely freaking the fuck out. So we did definitely our scripts in silence for about 30 minutes because of that awkwardness. But hey, fun story. That's the extra content you get during January Patreon push. So go ahead and go over right now to patreon.com/scaryish-podcast and say, we're going to go ahead and donate. Every patron we get is one slap less than Robin will deliver to me to punish me throughout the week. So please go over there. We saw we had some new patrons sign up this past week. It's an amazing feeling to see folks actually coming out. We sincerely appreciate you. It's amazing. So if you can't sign up for Patreon for us, but you just support the podcast, don't forget, if you have a friend that listens to the show, encourage them. A little bit of peer pressure. Hey, are you donating to Ab and Robin?
Hey, no
Why
peer
not?
pressure.
Okay, well, you can do it Robin's way. You can do it my way. Whatever. The point is, it's January. It's Patreon. Be pushy. So thank you so much to everyone who's listening. We appreciate you. Fun times to start the show. So we have two wonderful topics for you this episode. Robin, what are you going to be covering?
I'm going to be covering a couple of like cursed, quote unquote, cursed locations.
Okay.
What about you? You said something about mystery.
I'm going to be covering a like mysterious, it's not a book. They call it a manuscript, a mysterious manuscript. That's, one of the weirdest things I've ever covered. So I'm kind of happy we're doing it in January so you all can hear it because it's like Sweeps Week. I don't know if that's still a thing, but like people used to save like big stories for Sweeps Week. You ever heard of that?
No.
Something that I remember seeing in movies where they'd always talk about it. But yeah, like January is one where we try and bring the thunder. So this next topic that I'm going to cover is going to get fucking weird. It's definitely mysterious. But I think you are going to be going first, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So take her away.
I almost started reading your thing because it's like on the screen. Okay, so this week, my topic is, or topics, are going to be something that I always think is fun and interesting, a little mysterious, and it's these towns, these strange, like weird, mysterious, cursed towns, areas, locations, and it's these places that have these dark pasts, or at least stories about them that kind of make you think something dark does reside there. And we've covered a good number of haunted locations on this podcast. I mean, we're on episode 254, and we've definitely covered a lot of hauntings, a lot of true crime, but there's definitely a lot of places that we've talked about where it's like, maybe I'll go here, or I will never go here, you know?
Like Centralia, like very interesting story, we'll never visit.
Yeah. So this first particular location is in Argentina, located near the Pellegrini Lake, or Pellegrini Lake. I don't know, okay? I don't know how to pronounce these. I'm going to butcher so many names this episode. This place is near this lake, which, fun fact, is actually an artificial lake in Argentina. And despite this lake being artificial, you can go fishing there. I know, like, lots of man-made lakes have fishing and things like that, but this place is known for sports fishing and tourism. So it's a place where you can go visit, obviously.
That's pretty cool.
But it's not the lake itself that's cursed. So this place is called Cinco Saltos, which apparently is translated to 5 waterfalls. And the river that this lake is connected to, or the lake itself, there's like 5 steps. And the steps kind of go past this town, according to the internet. And it's an area in the rural region of Rio Negro, which is supposedly a town that gets very little light. So it's a really dark place, this Cinco Saltos.
It's sounding spooky already, the way you're describing it.
It's said that the first settlers arrived in the area in 1914, which really isn't that long ago. Attempts to develop the area were made, but floods in 1918 made development halt, like stop. They couldn't continue, made it like impossible to keep going.
I gotta say, I admire your professionalism, because you are crushing this in the midst of having your toes licked by a corgi right now, and I am just watching it happen.
In 1925, a village development committee was formed to assist in a revitalization of development. So the early years of settlement were pretty bare. It was rural. It wasn't until the mid-90s that it kind of really started to develop the necessities like a local hospital, which is crazy.
Until then, people were just left to their own devices to heal.
They had rural doctors, you know, but they didn't have like a hospital to take people to. Industry came in. They attempted to create industrial factories, right? That's industry. But it didn't work out because pollution, you know, that's kind of what comes with industrialization. We all know how that goes, right? We practically live in just yellow air half the time.
I think all of us do. There's some people that are definitely in like the more rural areas of the country that don't have to worry about that.
Population didn't really start to increase until the early 2000s when oil started coming in and became a growing industry. It floated around 18,000 people living in the area during that time, and it did go up, but since then it's really declined, and there really aren't that many people that still live there. And it looks like there's just a lot of history that has come through this area, a lot of things that have happened. And things are just a little different here. It's a mix of rural and modern. And fun side fact, in 2009, the community baked the longest apple pie in the world.
Interesting.
It was 201 meters. That's a lot of apple pie.
Fuck ton of apple pie.
And then they did it again in 2010. So the next year, they built it even longer. 258 meters of apple pie.
Jesus.
It's a lot of apple pie. How do you bake something that long?
I don't know.
Because I don't think you can like bake separate apple pies and stick them together. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I was
that
going to
way.
say it's got to be one continuous pie crust, right? Or else it doesn't count.
Why people do these things, I'll never know.
To get into the Guinness Book of World Records. I didn't realize, I think I may have already mentioned this on the show. The Guinness Book of World Records, like you hear that, you hear Guinness, you think like, oh, it must be a different organization than the beer. Like, no, it's the people who make the beer. They literally just started making a book of people who would do stupid shit to keep track of who could do the stupidest shit. And it became famous and people associate it separately from the beer, but it's the same fucking company.
I think you mentioned this like 10 episodes
I'm pretty sure I did. It's just fucking baffling. I'm glad I got to remind everyone of it because my brain just remembered and I'm just as stunned.
Nice. So local legends...
This is what it's like to be you. This is the Etch-a-Sketch effect.
Local legends talk of this darkness that surrounds this town as if it's like a dark cloud over the area that was made to kind of hide the work of supposed witches and necromancers. The stories of these black magic practices are so well known that it seems like the town is kind of filled with it, so much so that it's often referred to as the City of Witches. And we all know, okay, we've been doing this podcast for long enough. We are not saying that witches are bad.
Thank you for the disclaimer. If I have to get one more fucking lecture from an angry person like, actually, if you ever want to send someone a text message or a tweet or an email that begins with, actually, just rewrite it or don't. Just fucking don't.
Yeah. Okay. We are not saying this. I am just reiterating the legend and lore of this area. So, some say that in this City of Witches, there have been sightings of large groups of people dressed in long black cloaks standing together engaging in strange rituals. One of the more famous tales surrounding this spooky town surrounds that of the large cemetery in Cinco Saltos. So, in this story, workers come across the body of a 12-year-old girl while renovating the cemetery.
Jesus.
I don't know how you renovate a cemetery. I'm sure it was more like just fixing things up or making it nice, cleaning it.
That's renovation too. Renovation's not like we're going to give this cemetery an open floor plan. It's going to look so fucking sweet.
The body looked as if it had barely decomposed. It was discovered that this girl had actually died in like the 1930s. This is 70 years ago, prior to this discovery. And it was like she had been mummified because there was like barely any decomposition. But she wasn't just randomly buried. She was actually found chained to her coffin, like handcuffed to her coffin. Ish. She was chained to her coffin.
Ish?
I don't know exactly. There's no pictures.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I figured that there wouldn't be photos of something so horrific.
Yeah, she was attached to this coffin. And once news broke out that this girl was found in such strange circumstances, local superstitions were abound. There were rumors that started spreading about the ghost of this girl that would be seen walking around the cemetery or in the area around the cemetery. So that's pretty cool. I mean, interesting.
Cool/creepy and very sad.
Yeah, I just wonder why this girl would be chained there like that.
Yeah,
like,
doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Did they think she was going to come back?
Was it a murder? Like someone put her there while she was still alive? That's why she had to be chained to it?
That's really morbid. I didn't think about that. Thank you.
That's the first place my head went. I guess that says a lot about how long we've been doing this show.
So, remember that lovely lake that I was talking about earlier? There's actually a crossing that spans the lake that continues through the town. And rumor has it that there were once rituals that took place on this crossing. Child sacrifice type rituals.
Why does it keep going back to child sacrifice?
I don't know. Stuff? This town's all fucked up, man. Visitors that walk the crossing at night report hearing what sound like the screams of children. And when they go to investigate what it could possibly be, they can't find any source for the screams. So there are some stories that say that, like children drowned or a particular child drowned. And that's why they're screaming. And some say it's these rituals that cause, this disembodied screaming. Either way, real creepy, super scary, can't even. Something that Adam might appreciate are the tales of aliens, sightings of UFOs. I know that's one of Adam's favorite things.
Favorite by which you mean least favorite because I'm terrified of them.
There are supposed UFO sightings that have been had in the area and surrounding areas. So not just this town, but towns around there. And it may be due to the rural nature of the area. I mean, Area 51, middle of nowhere, people think they see lights and stuff out there all the time. But, I mean, aliens, that's always fun, right? I'm not a big fan of aliens. One of my fears is being, like, abducted by aliens. But you never know.
If there were, I mean, this is just my abduction scenario. If there was actual communication, like they could speak English and they would talk to me, I wouldn't be as frightened. Like if they were like straightforward, like, hey, we're going to take you. We're going to run some tests on you. I'd be like, you can speak English? They'd be like, yeah. I'd be like, can I ask you questions?
I think
like,
it would be
pretty fucking cool. I'm not going to lie. I would volunteer for something like this. If you guys are putting up like flyers or shit, I would pull that tab, dog.
I don't think it would be like, you speak English. It would be something like the TARDIS, where if you're around it, it translates everything, so you think you hear that language.
They've taken enough of us. They can just come down here and steal some fucking books and learn how to like make the mouth sounds.
Oh my god. Anyway, so maybe this area is cursed, or maybe it's all just a bunch of weird coincidences. But anyone that's visited the area, let us know what you felt if you went and you walked through, or you went swimming, or you went fishing, or whatever. Imagine catching fish and they're all actually cursed fish, and you eat these fish. That's fucked up. And then you're just haunted.
No, I won't imagine that. You can't make me. I think all the people in Argentina, regardless of how cursed or haunted their places are all pretty happy right now because they won the World Cup. So.
Oh, yeah.
There's like, what the fuck ever, we don't care. Messi rules.
Okay. Anyway, I know nothing about soccer.
Football.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's football. Okay, so the next topic, next little location here, is going to take us across the pond to the land of Scots. Scotland, you might say. I hate
you so much.
Scotland is definitely a land of lots of lore and tales, of spooks and woe. It's got quite a long history. There's lots of battles that have happened there over different beliefs and leadership and things like that.
Independence from the Brits. I mean, we've all seen Braveheart, all of us except
Robin.
We've all
seen Outlander.
Oh, God.
The location that I'm going to tell you about is that of the Alloa Tower in central Scotland. Again, I'm going to mess up lots of these pronunciations. I am a trash American. And
wow, really ragging on yourself.
I just don't know how to say lots of these things. I want to go travel there one day, for sure.
You think we're going to get there and they'll be like, it's her?
Maybe. But yeah, okay, so this 4-story tower dates back to the 14th century and still retains its original timber roof and battlements. So still's got the OG parts.
That's pretty cool.
Which to me makes it even more haunted.
Because it's got the OG parts?
Yeah.
Is it haunted by the ghosts of the trees that were cut down?
Like, imagine all the blood that's spilt on it, and it just keeps that history within its, A
lot of fluid spilt there, probably. It's been around for a very long
time.
Why
do you gotta say fluids like that?
I mean, I'm literally referencing other fluids besides blood.
All right. So over the centuries, houses were built around the structure, but those have been built and they have fallen. So this structure stands alone, which is crazy that it's existed for so long, that like houses have been built as, part of this property, and it just is the only thing left standing.
It persists.
Some say that the reason why it still stands is due to the curse that was put on it. So
it's a pretty shitty curse. I think whoever cursed it confused what cursed meant.
So sometime during the 16th century, a man named John Erskine, the first Earl of Mar, decided to steal some stones from the ruins of Cambuskenneth Abbey. He wanted them for the construction of his own mansion, which they called Mars Wark. This was not taken well by the church, so an abbot went as far as to curse the entire Erskine family, making some predictions on what would happen to them and the property and things like that.
Seems pretty intense.
So, their curse was like, I'm going to quote literally what it is.
Oh, neat.
Okay.
Please don't look at me while you do it.
So this is how it went. Quote. Proud chief of Mar, thou shalt be raised still higher until thou sittest in the place of the king. Thou shalt rule and destroy, and thy work shall be after thy name. But thy work shall be the emblem of thy house, and shall teach mankind that he who cruelly and haughtily raiseth himself upon the ruins of the holy cannot prosper. Thy work shall be cursed and shall never be finished. But thou shalt have riches and greatness, and shalt be true to thy sovereign, and shalt raise his banner in the field of blood. Then, when thou seemest to be highest, when thy power is mightiest, then shall come thy fall. Low shall be thy head amongst the nobles of the people. Deep shall be thy moan among the children of the duel. Thy what the fuck?
You said low moan.
Thy lands shall be given to the stranger, and thy titles shall be among the dead. The branch that springs from thee shall see his dwelling burnt, in which a king is nursed, his wife a sacrifice in that same flame, his children numerous, but of little honor, and 3 born and grown, who shall never see the light of day. Yet shall thine ancient town stand, for the brave and the true cannot be wholly forsaken. Thou proud head and daggered hand must dree thy aired, fucking weird words, until horses shall be stabled in thy hall, and a weaver shall throw his shuttle in thy chamber of state. Not sexy terms, though it sounds like it. Thine ancient tower, a woman's dower, shall be a ruin and a beacon, until an ash sapling shall spring from its utmost stone. Then shall thy sorrows be ended, and the sunshine of royalty shall beam on thee once more. Thine honors shall be restored, the kiss of peace shall be given to thy countess, though she seek it not, and the days of peace shall return to thee and thine. The line of Mar shall be broken, but not until its honors are doubled and its doom is ended. End quote. Even though there's lots of words in there that were not quoted.
That is officially the longest quote we've ever had on the show. It definitely smacked of the vibes that I got watching The Mummy when Edie read from the book. I kind of felt like shouting, "You mustn't read from the book," when you were finished.
So what it came down to is this. The Earl would have lots of kids, but would all be of little honor. The estate would fall into the hands of strangers. One of them would live to see the home ravaged by flame, and his wife would die in the blaze. 3 of the Erskine children would never see the light of day. The great hall would be no more than a stable, and a weaver would work in the chamber of state, whatever the fuck that means. The family would raise their sovereign's banner in a battle of blood. The building would never be complete, and the curse would only be done when an ash sapling was seen to grow from the top of the tower. There's some other things like the kiss that they talk about, but obviously the wording for these was much more elegant, but that's like the general gist of what it's saying. So there were also good points in there, like the honor being doubled and all that fun stuff. Some of these things did come to pass over time. So it's like all those shows and movies we watch where it's like the prophecy.
It's just like the old gypsy woman said.
Adam's watching Archer all over again.
Please don't yell at me for saying the word gypsy. I'm literally just quoting Archer.
Yeah, it's just from a TV show. Okay, so at the point when the first Earl died in 1572, the house wasn't complete, just like the prophecy said. So, that being said, the house was eventually complete.
Okay.
Eventually,
Prophecy
just
zero, house 1.
So just not during his lifetime. In 1716, the family was stripped of their lands and titles as punishment for supporting the quote-unquote pretender in the Jacobite uprising. Totally just makes me think of Outlander because the whole Jacobite uprising, everything that all happens in the show.
Made me think of Foo Fighters because of the song Pretender.
This was a double whammy as it also saw them rise their sovereign banner in a battle of blood. Some say it's a reference to their role in the Jacobite uprising at a Battle of Sheriffmuir, which was a bunch of Scotsmen against British troops. The British obviously won that battle despite being outnumbered by Scots. There were double the amount of Scots than British, but the British won anyway.
It's a bummer.
It is a bummer.
I mean, I guess it depends on who you're rooting for.
Yeah, history is difficult, right? You can't really. Again, sorry for all the pronunciations. I have no idea how to pronounce some of these. In 1800, the tower suffered heavy damage by fire. The owner at the time, Jacob Francis Erskine, watched his wife die in the flames.
Oh, shit.
So that actually happened. Some say that it was an accident and a maid had left a candle too close to the curtains. But, who knows what it was for sure. Maybe it was just the spirits, the curse, like Final Destination, just making everything happen. 3 of his children were also born completely blind. So they never got to see the light of day.
Wow. The same guy?
Yeah.
This poor dude. The curse is just all popping up on him.
He was the 7th Earl. He had 8 kids. So he had 8 children. 3 of them were blind. None of them were exceptional.
Aw.
So.
What a shitty way to say that.
Well, in the prophecy, it says that he would have a lot of kids with little honor.
Mm-hmm.
So
I just can imagine curses being placed today if we still did that. Like, you kids are going to be assholes and dummies.
So one of his sons was actually disinherited and died of a drug overdose. Supposedly all of his daughters died unmarried. One of his other sons became a vicar, which is probably not what you were hoping your kid will do. When you're an earl, you're probably like, do something, not go to the church. There are some other kids that he had, obviously, because he had 8, but little are known about them. And I feel like that in and of itself just means they were someone that was left unnoticed in history.
Unremarkable.
Yeah, just like the prophecy said. So the house was used for things that weren't a residence exactly as well. Kind of like the prophecy said. Between 1802 and 1805, horses were actually stabled in the Great Hall.
That's a long time. That's 3 years.
Yep, because there wasn't enough space for the horses. So, sometime between 1815 and 1820, though, an ash tree did sprout on the remains of the tower roof.
Do you think someone planted it there?
I mean, they could have. Yeah, they could. Who knows? But if it were me, I would have done it way sooner.
Yeah, no shit. I would have gone up to the roof with an ash tree immediately.
Things were pretty cool beans from that point on. The title of Earl was bestowed again on the family. The grandson of the 6th Earl was given the Earldom of Mar again. And you could probably twist any of these predictions into things that happened within the tower. Like, supposedly it was a brothel at one point too, and that has to be one of the things, right? I mean, you could do whatever you want. You could probably make it out to be something. But after the curse was completed, the family's life did improve. When the 9th Earl died, he passed it on to his sister's son, who legally changed his last name to Erskine to become the 10th Earl of Mar in 1866. Also, fun fact, there are 2 earldoms of Mar, apparently, as a law was passed in 1885 that declared the earldom of the original Earl of Mar, because you know how they got stripped. Mm-hmm. So they passed a law that said that is going to be upheld, and so that lineage still exists. So the original heirs and the current heirs both hold the titles, and so now there are 2 different ones. And just like the prophecy said, there would be 2 lines.
Oh, wow.
And the honors would double.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's it's fun. It's interesting.
This prophecy that talked about a woman burning to death, it's fun.
But the property is no longer owned by the Erskines, but lies in the care of the National Trust for Scotland, basically falling into the hands of strangers, like the prophecy said.
Damn.
Also, there are stories of like one of the Erskines in the house, and Queen Victoria came to visit or something and kissed one of the people, the Erskines, on the cheek, which like fulfilled that part of the prophecy too. But I was like, that's so small. It's like, yeah. But there are different stories like that.
Pretty cool, though.
That are supposed to like fulfill each step of the prophecy. Like lots of the locations we've covered, you can also go visit this one. If you want to go as a family, it's like 16.5 pounds to go. So that's like $20.
I was gonna say I have way more pounds on me than that, so I don't think they'll let me in.
It's full of art and history. One of the paintings, supposedly, is that of a lady in black and is said to mysteriously mist over and smoke on the anniversary of the fire, which I think is interesting.
I think it sounds like bullshit.
I'd actually be cool with going here, like visiting this place. If we ever went to Scotland one day, I really want to go to Europe. I think that would be cool. But Europe is a big place and there's so many different countries, and I feel like I'd have to go for an entire month to visit all the places that I'd want to check out. Yeah,
there's so much stuff.
I think Scotland will be cool. This structure also has history with Mary Queen of Scots, which we watched shows and stuff on. There's also a basement and a prison there, so I'm really curious about what the vibes are like.
Maybe we could spend a night in the basement, and a night in the prison.
No. I'd want to go. I don't want to spend the night in anywhere creepy. Just
chicken.
Yeah, call me a chicken. But yeah, those are some tales of mysterious locations that are supposedly cursed.
Nice.
Yeah, it's fun.
That was really good.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed that. Good job, Robin.
Thanks.
Right on. All right. So before we move into my topic, we're going to take a quick commercial break. And we are back. So this week, I really wanted to cover something that was a creepy mystery. So first, actually, I started looking for some true crime cases that contained elements of the paranormal. I really wanted to find something where it's like, this person broke the law and they might actually have superpowers or some weird shit like that. And the few that I wound up looking at weren't really doing it. They were not what I thought they would be. They just had like sensationalized titles. And I was like, damn it. And then they either didn't have anything paranormal, like I just said, or it was stuff that I've already covered, which was super annoying.
All right.
So I went looking for like just bizarre, creepy, unsolved-ish mysteries. And I found something that I'd never heard of. You always know you found your topic when you're doing research for something like this, when you just find yourself reading a whole bunch to like learn about something and you're like, oh yeah, I should probably just start writing a script because I can definitely tell this story and I'm going to tell it as soon as I'm done reading it. So that's what I did. And I shall now share with you, dear listeners, the Voynich Manuscript. So first things first, I watched a few videos and they all had that pronunciation of Voynich. If it's incorrect, I apologize. I tried my best. So when I find a topic I want to cover, I evaluate if it's feasible based off of how much is out there. So you can't cover a topic that has no information on it. You just can't. No matter how much people want you to, no matter how much they think it might be interesting to do. If there's nothing out there but like a meme, there's not anything that you can do to stretch that or somehow magically turn it into a topic.
Yeah.
So I have my search engines. I have my archive sites for academic papers written on stuff. I have my internet archive sites for looking at books and other publications to see what's been written on it. If those three come up dry, I can't do a topic. That's just what it comes down to. So depending on how much pops up, it will let me know if I could feasibly make it into something that could be a script. Believe it or not, a really good indicator of whether or not something is going to be a topic is Wikipedia. Not what it says, because it could just say whatever the fuck, but how many entries it has. The longer the entry...
Like the footnotes?
The longer the entry itself, like what's actually written, the more you know whether or not there's going to be something that's a story there. And then, of course, like Robin said, the footnotes, how many sources have been cited. If it has no sources cited, regardless of how long the entry is, it's a pretty bad sign. If it has some entries, then you might be able to stretch it into a story. But this one had one of the longest entries I've ever seen that's not like a specific historical monument or something like that. And it has 142 cited sources.
Interesting.
I was like, holy shit, this thing is so long, which threw me because I've never fucking heard of this thing at all. I've never heard of Voynich manuscript.
I think I've heard of it, but I don't know a lot about it. So tell me more.
So it is a well-known object to some people, and it actually reminded me of the Codex Gigas, which is something that you covered, which is a massive manuscript that's not just massive in like how much is in it, it's also like huge. It's like 3 feet by 2 feet or whatever.
Yeah.
Robin covered that in episode 192. So when I found this, I was like, oh, maybe this is another name for it. No, it's not. This particular work has been called, quote, the most mysterious manuscript on earth, end quote. It's hard to take any of those kind of claims seriously, though. It's like the most haunted hotel in the world or the most haunted farm in the world.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, most haunted bathroom in the house. It's probably the guest bathroom for those of you who are going to stay with us because ours is pretty chill. But it is also a book. It's not massive in size like the Codex is. Like I mentioned, it is a 9.3 inch by 6.4 inch book, which is pretty similar in size to like hardcover books that you just buy at like Barnes & Noble. It is fancy. It's written on vellum, which, if you didn't know, is paper made out of animal skin or membrane.
Is that what vellum is?
Yeah, it's basically paper made from like animal byproducts.
What the heck? Oh, wait, so the vellum sheets that people put in like gift cards, or not gift cards, but greeting cards and stuff?
I couldn't tell you what it's made out of like nowadays.
Oh, okay.
But vellum is typically made out of some animal byproduct. I would imagine vellum that's put into like gift cards and stuff like that is like a more natural product that's not like, you know, you skinned a sheep or anything like that to get it. But I don't know. I'm not fucking working at Hallmark. I don't know what sort of dirty deeds they do behind closed doors.
Okay.
So that said,
Gotcha.
It's 240 pages, which is actually incomplete. It's supposed to be 272 pages. You may ask, where are the other 32 pages? To which I would say, chill the fuck out. Some are actually fold-outs. There's pages that are like a Playboy like centerfold where you have like 3 pages that you fold out to get the titties.
Do people even know what those are anymore?
I mean, if you don't, you should learn. So it's a shame. But I'll post pictures of what some of these pages look like. There's one that's like a 6-fold that has just like this massive picture on it, and you can see it on our Instagram or our Facebook. There are also pages that are missing. A lot of the pages in this thing are numbered, so it's actually easy for folks to identify which ones were skipped, which is a bummer. Of course, as time passed, the Voynich manuscript changed hands a lot, and we're going to get into that. And there was some natural wear and tear from the things that happened with it, which leads me to some of the fun facts that make the Voynich manuscript intriguing. I mean, I already told you it's the most mysterious manuscript on earth. So why is it mysterious? Well, one, no one knows exactly how old it is.
They can't like carbon date?
You may hear exactly how old it is and think to yourself, why can't they just carbon date it? Well, they did. So that said, there's no one around to say this is the exact date it was written.
Oh, gotcha.
So usually you can get a range of how old a book is by who wrote it. But no one knows who wrote it. So that doesn't help either. The mystery deepens. There are theories. Okay. We'll also get to those, but it is complete conjecture. To get an idea of how old this thing actually is, it has been carbon dated multiple times in recent times and conclusively shown to have been created in the early 15th century between 1404 and 1438. So this thing is 600 years old, which is funny because as the story is going to unfold, you're going to notice a lot of claims that come up that say, oh, this is who wrote it, this is who owned it, this is who wrote it, this is who owned it. And they're all basically tarnished by the carbon dating.
Okay.
So it's very funny to me because a lot of the things that people thought about it was that it was created in the 1500s or the 1200s, neither of which could have happened because it had to have been created in that window in the 1400s. It's nice that it's made out of vellum because vellum is something that has a range when you carbon date it, so you can actually see how old the fucking thing is. It would be a lot more difficult if it were paper, apparently, but vellum is a lot easier to carbon date. So, according to the internet, I don't know, the website could have been bullshit. So you may be asking at this point, okay, it's old as shit, unknown author, what is in this 240-page mysterious manuscript? And that is a very good question. Generally speaking, it has illustrations and diagrams. It's broken apart into different sections, but it doesn't really have like chapters. There's no like index at the beginning or a glossary that's going to tell you which section is what. There are 20 sections, 18 of which are still present. Those 18 sections cover 6 main topics. There's 6 things in general that are covered within this. Plants. Those plants are either entirely fictitious or completely undiscovered.
What?
So they're just drawings of plants that don't exist. Astronomical/astrological drawings and notes. I totally picture Stargate shit when I read that. Biology, which mainly focuses on females, and water immersion and pods and tubes. It's weird. I'll post pictures again. Medicinal herbs. Big sections of text that folks think are recipes. Cosmology, because this is all the standard shit a mysterious book from 600 years ago with no author would have. I say cosmology, stuff about the universe, the cosmos,
Okay.
how the universe works, being written about in the 1400s.
Is it possible that this author from the 1400s may have just been writing a science fiction book?
I mean, this does not look like a science fiction book. This looks like stereo instructions to me. It does not
Okay.
look like it's a novel. There's no narrative here. There's no characters. This just looks like sections upon sections of people taking notes and drawing pictures. So the reason I say that we kind of just assume based off the illustrations and the graphics that are present, that this is the thing that makes it the most interesting, is that it is written in a completely unknown language.
Okay. See, the thing is, when in the future, J.R.R. Tolkien's Elvish language is going to be written in some compendium or something, people are going to be like, it's this unknown language from this, XYZ century. And
so much will have had to have been lost in order for that to happen, the history of J.R.R. Tolkien himself.
And that's what's happening.
Or the Elvish language being created, or all the things that came afterwards. The thing about this book is that there is nothing to say J.R.R. Tolkien ever existed. There is nothing that's been moved off of this book to be created after it. There's no iterations of this language before or after. It only exists within this book. You have an Elvish tattoo, which shows that it's propagated into the world. That has not happened from this particular manuscript, which is fucking bizarre. This thing has hundreds of thousands of words. It's like a couple of Robert Jordan books dense of completely unknown script. Side note, there are a few words, 3 or 4, that have been identified as being Latin or High German, but it appears they're actually being referenced the way one language recognizes another word in its native language. You might be thinking, what do you mean? It's if I were telling you, today I had a quesadilla for dinner. Quesadilla is obviously a Spanish word, or the word douche. When you call someone a douche,
Okay.
That's a French word. So what is known of it is how old it is, and that's based off of carbon dating, and that is about it. And what you can see in it, because, pictures are pictures. Yale, who are the current possessors of this manuscript, were nice enough to upload images of it to their website, so it is digitally saved forever, as long as
There's
the cloud doesn't get erased.
There's an episode of Buffy about that. You do
Oh my
not scan
fucking
these
God.
books into the cyber network, okay? It's just...
What are you fucking talking
You
about?
don't remember that episode of Buffy?
No, I'm asking,
where-
what are you talking about? Not what Buffy was commenting on before, preserving all these things that could age out and disappear was important to people.
No. So what if it's a cursed book and it's text about a demon or something, and they scan it in and it becomes part of the cyber network?
Well,
and
nothing
we
like
can
that
never
has
get rid of
happened,
it.
and I'm glad they didn't watch Buffy and then decided not to save this very incredibly important piece of work. I hate you so much. Not everything is a fucking Buffy episode. So,
You spelled quesadilla wrong.
No, I didn't. Oh, yeah, I did. Look at that. I was typing very quickly. It doesn't fucking matter. What matters is that I just keep going. That said, if you want to check this thing out on Yale's website, it's $50. So I'll be snagging
What?
images from the many articles written about it that took pictures of it before Yale started fucking charging for it. You guys are dickheads. Let's go back to the beginning, though, when it was first confirmed as existing. The first ever owner of the manuscript was a guy named George Baresh. Probably got the name wrong. That's what it looks like. He was an alchemist, which was apparently a job,
What?
who lived in Prague in the 17th century, which is just a really fun sentence. Georgie boy was going through his things, whether or not he was just taking stock of what he had, or he was going to donate some shit, which I'm not even sure people did in the 1600s, or maybe he was moving.
He was like, I'm going to take this to the Goodwill.
Yeah. He found this old tome on his bookshelf that had been there for some time. He stated it had been, quote, apparently this is a quote, taking up space in his library, end quote. Where
did he get it from?
Which is a sentence I hope to one day say. Obviously, I'm going to tell you. He knew the book was unreadable, and he found a dude he hoped could translate it named Kirscher. He has another name. I just decided to go with Kirscher. We're going to give him a single name like Madonna or Cher. So he wrote him a letter and included a copy of the script contained within the manuscript and was like, yo, dog, can you translate this? The letter was sent in 1639. It is the first confirmed reference to the manuscript that exists aside from the manuscript itself.
People used to save like every single letter they
and
ever
it's still
got.
Around. And insane. There's a lot of stuff about this thing that is still around because it was such a mysterious object. Anything that was written about it, they just kept saving. So Kirscher wrote back and he said, I want to buy that thing. And Georgie responded, by dying. Seriously, though, he didn't sell the book. He didn't die. But when he did die, he bequeathed it to his friend named Jan Marek Marcy. Marcy actually knew Kirscher and knew Kirscher wanted that book. And he gave him shit about how Georgie left it to him and then told him, I'm just fucking with you. I'm going to send it to you, but you got to send that shit back, dog. Also translate it and give me the secrets of the universe contained within. When he sent the book to Kirscher, he actually did write a cover letter to him, which existed for quite some time, at least 300 years. I don't know if it's still around. What it actually said was that Jan believed the book was destined to go to Kirscher. He believed that's why it was left to him, because he knew Kirscher, and he was just like this person that was passing it along. It also said that a tutor at Charles University in Prague, which is where the guy who got the book, Marcy, worked, had told him when he looked at the book like, oh, this book once belonged to Emperor Rudolph II. I think it's Rudolph II. A Holy Roman Emperor from 1576 to 1612. That's important. It's going to come back later. And that he purchased it for 600 ducats. A ducat would roughly translate to around $150 today, making it a $90,000 purchase of a book.
Wow.
That is pretty fucking expensive. Another estimate I cooked up is based off of the estimate that the manuscript was purchased for 2 kilograms of gold. Not a dollar amount, but just like, hey, give me 2 kilograms of gold and it's yours. Gold is currently, at the time I wrote this, at $60.35 a gram, which makes it $120,700. Either way, it's an expensive ass fucking manuscript. After the Holy Roman Emperor, rare book collectors would purchase/trade the book for some time before it hit Georgie's library, where it wound up collecting dust. It's not confirmed how it went from the Holy Roman Emperor to whatever people it went to. It's not confirmed who it went to between the Holy Roman Emperor and Georgie. It's also not confirmed that it was with the Holy Roman Emperor. It's just something that gets added to the story in this particular cover letter. It's just unconfirmed. It's just like, hey, this guy I work with, who's a literary professor, said he knows what the book is because he's heard about it, and that it went to the Holy Roman Emperor and it's worth a fuck ton of money. So the cover letter also stated that the book had been written by Roger Bacon, the famed alter ego of time-traveling actor Kevin Bacon, obviously. Not really. He was a scholar and a friar from the 1200s, which is pretty famous for being like a philosopher, a mathematician, a bunch of other shit.
I'm just thinking about Friar and Bacon now, and breakfast sounds so good.
He also has been proven to have not written this book because he existed around 150 years before it was made. The book, though, after it winds up with Kirscher, it basically stays with the church. They send it to Kirscher. They say like, hey, dude, I feel like this was destined for you to have. Here's what I've heard about it. Try and translate it. Figure out what it is. He gets it. It stays with him because he's part of the church. It stays with the church. It's not heard about for around 200 years. It's almost like they try. They're like, we can't figure it out, so we're just going to fucking keep it. Then, in the late 1800s, like 250 years later, something happens that always happens with humans. War. A guy named Victor Emmanuel II of Italy does some war and captures the place where the Voynich manuscript is held, along with the papal states in Italy, which I didn't realize this fucking dude. He like proclaimed himself the king of Italy and did a bunch of war. And he's like, let's also take the place where the Pope lives and shit. So there's this weird free-for-all that happens, okay? So they take all these different places, and when they take the places, they're going to claim whatever the fuck they want. They start raiding libraries. But the keepers of the libraries and the people that work there and these priests, they are basically taking these books and taking them home to their home libraries, because if the books are in their homes, they are some reason, in some way, shape, and form, exempt from confiscation by this army. They're like, oh, these are your books? Oh, we can't fucking take them. If they belong to God, we can take them. But if they're in your house, we got to fucking leave them be. So this winds up happening. So the Voynich manuscript winds up at Petrus Bex's place for about 20 years or so, in safekeeping before being moved back to the church once they're able to move it back safely. Church has it for about 10 years, then sells it in 1912 to Wilfrid Voynich. That's where the manuscript gets its name.
Okay.
Wilfrid was what is referred to as a bibliophile. We call them bookworms nowadays because anything that ends with file sounds too much like pedophile, but a lover of books and a collector of all things book. And he knew that this was a very famous, very notable book with a ton of mystery around it. He also believed that it was written by Roger Bacon because he didn't know. He didn't know about the carbon dating thing because it just didn't exist yet. But this book definitely had something, and Roger Bacon was very famous. If there was a unknown Roger Bacon book of which there was only one written in a unique language, it would have been one of the most valuable things to exist at that time. So he winds up getting it. Then he uses his influence to get scholars excited about this, get them horny for knowledge, and tells them, hey, you guys try and decipher this thing. I'm going to try and figure out where it came from. They and he were unsuccessful. He has the book for 18 years until he passes away. He dies in 1930. When Wilfrid dies, he leaves it to his wife, Ethel, who, as far as I can tell, just sort of returns it to a life on the shelf for 30 years. In 1960, Ethel passes away, and she bequeaths it to a friend. That friend turns around and sells it in 1961. It was like, I want this fucking thing, to a guy named
What a beach.
Hans Kraus, which is a very German-sounding name. He sounds like he was dropped off the Nakatomi fucking tower. Hans tries to sell it to turn a profit for 8 years, but no one wants it at this point. Because at this point, everyone just assumes that Voynich made it himself. That it's totally fucking fake. The story of this Roger Bacon book is completely made up, and that Voynich made this because he just wanted some fame, some notoriety, and some money. So no one will buy it. So 1969 rolls around, nice, and he winds up donating it to Yale University, who are still in possession of it to this day. Carbon dating then shows up, and guess what? It was written in the early 1400s, and everyone's like, oh, shit. We thought Wilfrid Voynich was full of shit, and he made it up just to make it super valuable. So now that they realize this thing is, legit, it's, again, a total mystery, and the interest has returned. The timing for Roger Bacon to have written it does not match up since he died over 100 years before it was made. But one of the suspected authors is a guy named Giovanni Fontana. He was alive at the time it was supposed to be written. He's from the area where the book supposedly existed because it's said to have existed in Italy, amongst other places, which we will get to. And he was a writer. He has another book that he wrote that was written in a cipher as well, but one that was fairly straightforward and easy to decrypt. When people write stuff in ciphers that's not meant to be super, super secretive, it's usually one of a few ciphers that most people know about. Like if you were going to write in a cipher, like a secret message to someone, how would you write a message?
I would do it in a system of numbers and letters from taking the pages and lines and words and stuff from Twilight.
Okay, so yours is very complex and, shitty because it includes Twilight. I think the most basic cipher people will use is transposing numbers that correspond with letters from the alphabet. Like Mr. E, like Batman Returns, where it's like letters that correspond to their placement in the alphabet type of thing. I'm not saying that's how easy the cipher was that Giovanni used for this work, but it was something that people were meant to decrypt. So everyone's like, he wrote something back in the day that was similar. Maybe he wrote that. But there's no real similarities to any of the things that he had ever done or the handwriting or any of that shit. There's a bunch of other random names that no one will really know that have been suggested, but it all comes down to one thing. It wasn't them. So my favorite story, though, is one of a guy named Jacobus Sinapius.
Sick-ass name.
This dude was the imperial distiller for Rudolph II, the Holy Roman Emperor I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
And, this is a fucking job, imperial distiller. This dude is like...
I make booze for the emperor.
Yeah, pretty much. the Holy Roman Emperor. And Voynich stated that his name was on the bottom of the first page, like where you would have an author's name. But when people went to check, once they thought, oh, wait, maybe Voynich wasn't lying, the name wasn't there. They're like, oh, he fucking made that part up. God damn it, Voynich, always making shit up. And again, they go back to saying that Voynich is full of shit.
They have to use lemon juice and hot air.
Then, in 2003...
It's on the back of the Declaration of Independence.
His name was discovered on the manuscript's first page when examined under ultraviolet light.
Shut up.
It had faded, but the impression was still there, and they're like, holy fucking shit, Jacobus Sinapius' name is still there, which is some straight up Da Vinci Code / National Treasure shit. I knew you were going to quote one of those two. I'm happy that I got it right. It was also discovered that the signature that had faded with time was 100% a forgery. An old one, to be sure, but Jacobus Sinapius, because he was this notable person, had signed many things that are still around, and the signatures and the handwriting are absolutely nothing alike.
Aww,
it is likely that someone stated he wrote it and then signed it themselves at some point. Also, Jacobus was about 200 years younger than the book was. He came around in the 1600s, 1500s-ish. So he definitely couldn't have written it unless he time traveled backwards and then wrote it. So someone made this lie up, and it's just, annoying because still no one knows who the fuck wrote it. No one knows what it says, but it's funny to me because his particular story is like, yeah, someone lied about this, but they lied a really long time ago, and it's hard to identify when that was written in because it's before Voynich got it. So it could have been written in there in like the 1600s where someone's like, oh yeah, I totally got this from the Holy Roman Emperor's Imperial Distiller or whatever. So this is all to say, absolutely no one knows who wrote this thing, which just makes it very mysterious. And even more annoying, no one knows what the fuck it says. Lots of folks claim to have translated it, but nearly every one of them that claims this doesn't actually translate the thing. They basically state, oh, I figured out the cipher. And then other people will be like, okay, cool, what does it say? And they're like, oh. It's like, okay, so you didn't figure out the cipher because when you try and use it, it's still gibberish. They're like, yeah, pretty much. And then people are just like, okay, you're full of shit. And then the next person shows up who does the same thing. It was given, this is totally true, it was given to code breakers from America and the United Kingdom to decipher during World War I.
What? Why?
I don't know.
They already had enough to deal with.
It's super creepy. It's like, they're like, hey, we think this book might be important. Can you guys decipher this? They were unsuccessful. And guess what? It was given to code breakers from America and the United Kingdom to decipher again in World War II. Again, they were unsuccessful. It's weird that like governments are trying to decipher this fucking thing during times of war. It's very creepy to me. And folks are pretty certain that it's going to be given to the code breakers during World War III, whenever that is, probably soon. It is a good thing that it has pictures and illustrations, because otherwise everyone would be like, it's just a book of fucking gibberish. A team of cryptographers from the NSA tried to decipher it on their own in the 1950s. The most that they got was a theory that it's a custom cipher that whoever wrote it made personally that translates some European language, they're not sure which one, into a manual algorithm that operates on individual letters. And if when I said that, you're like, I don't know what that means. No shit, none of us do. Some think it's a cipher that takes a single letter and surrounds it with a bunch of fake letters, with each group representing one letter or short words. If that were the case, though, most folks would have been able to decipher it who are, good at deciphering these sorts of things. Another theory is that it's a cipher that converts to Roman numerals, like Robin's weird fucking Twilight system, before running it through the cipher, which is presumably Twilight or New Moon or who the fuck knows, maybe Breaking Dawn.
Definitely not New Moon. That book is the worst.
And no one reads it, right? Sounds like it's the perfect thing for a cipher, I guess. One dude in 1943 claimed that it was Latin, but done in a system of shorthand. I don't know if you guys know what shorthand is, but it's a way of taking notes where you don't write out
You don't cross your T's.
There's a lot more to like shorthand where you don't even write out a full word at all. But it's basically Latin done in a system of shorthand that was a custom system. He claims he translated it, but the scholastic world unanimously rejected his readings of the text, end quote, because it was a bunch of fucking gibberish. Because he said he translated the cipher, not the book. Sounds like someone may have been jealous, but in the end, nothing came from this one. Seriously, I think the conflict with that particular dude is that it was supposedly written in Latin, is what he claims, but used a set of shorthand rules from Greek abbreviations, which would absolutely not match up between those two languages. So people are like, you're full of shit. You're just saying this for attention.
That's annoying.
Most recent studies suggest that it's actually not a cipher. So like, you know, we watch Arrival. It's what's her face.
And she like figures out their language.
She's trying to learn their language. She goes and gets fucking Hawkeye and she's like, hey, shoot arrows at these aliens if they turn out to be hostile. He's like, no problem, dog. And they have like a very specific language and she's trying to, through the magic of linguistics and the study of language, figure out what they're saying to her. Like linguistic professors, like she was in Arrival, have analyzed this language and they're like, hey, here's the deal. We don't think this is a cipher. Like we think this is an actual language. Whether it's custom or extremely private, like Elvish from J.R.R. Tolkien, if he only taught that language to like a couple of fucking people, they're like, this looks like an actual language. Whether or not it's known by a select few or it's a dead language, the patterns of how it's written suggest that it is not a cipher. They call them natural languages. Don't really want to go into too much stuff regarding linguistics. It is very interesting, but that's just me because I did study like linguistics in college.
Really?
I majored in fucking creative writing. It's something that kind of have to go through.
Okay.
So that is very interesting to me of like how a language can be developed and why something is considered a natural language. But like I could bore you with some of this, but it's like you don't care about word entropy or morphemes or syllable count and like natural languages versus artificial languages and shit like that. It just really seems like some supernatural shit. Like, oh, this is written in like the 4th version of demonic or blah, 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 blah. Like,
Okay.
I'm sure Seamus can read this.
Seamus.
Whatever. Isn't that the name of Crowley, his real name?
Oh.
We clearly need to watch it
that's
again.
Deep cut.
Yeah, no shit, right? So just trust me when they say that these particular folks that are studying it, that are in linguistics, think that this sounds like a language rather than a codex or a cipher. Since the 60s, linguists that study the Voynich manuscript insist this. In the 70s, someone stated that it's actually a dead dialect of northern Germany that was translated to a different language, but they also don't know what language it is. It's been thought to be something custom from Bohemia by others. It's basically a language that no one can quite figure out. They argue the origins of it, but they can't even figure out how to translate it. They probably won't even get to that step. Folks have started claiming that they can identify some of the plants drawn in it nowadays. In 2014, there was a paper published claiming to identify 37 of the plants and 6 of the animals in the manuscript that had previously not been recognized. One of which was a plant that went extinct in the 15th century when it was written and was native only to the Aztec Empire, which, if you don't know, was based in Mexico, or what is now known as Mexico, literally thousands of miles and a full ocean away from where they had claimed it was. The same paper also claims that the language is actually one of the Aztec dialects. It isn't that crazy or far-fetched either, because folks used to state that they thought that this thing was created in the mid to late 1500s, and that's why the Holy Roman Emperor had it. It was actually written in the early 1400s. Don't know how much you know about the Aztec Empire, but Spain conquered the Aztec Empire in 1576.
Really?
Like 150 or so years after when it could have been written. And around the time, that same Holy Roman Emperor was the Holy Roman Emperor. So he could have acquired the book through folks that were part of the Spanish Empire that were raiding everything that was in the Aztec Empire and been like, hey, can I have that? And they're like, yeah, sure, you're the Emperor. You can have whatever the fuck you want. Experts in the Aztec language, when this theory popped up, though, said, nah, dog, that is not Aztec writing. It is something else. We don't know what it is, but that is bullshit.
Sounds pretty intense when it comes to like the I didn't realize there was so much headbutting when it comes to linguistics and language and how things work and everyone kind of defending their end or where their expertise kind of comes from. And
it's funny to me that the people that are claiming that it's part of like a different language are not the experts in that language. And then the experts in that language step forward and they're like, nope, you're wrong. And then they're like, all right, on to the next theory. My absolute favorite theory about the Voynich manuscript is that it is one of the oldest and most elaborate practical jokes of all time.
like I was saying, like it could totally just be someone who was like, you know what? I'm going to write something fun, something dumb. I'm going to draw a bunch of pictures in it, make up my own world. Maybe he was an outcast who decided like, you know what? I'm going to create my own world and my own friends and like all this stuff and my own language because no one will talk to me.
It looks like a notebook that's been like jotted down with a bunch of different things that you're trying to understand about like plants and women and bathing and the cosmos and weird shit like that. So it's like if someone were to just sit down and write a bunch of gibberish in an unknown language that they just made up, And it's just like an unknown author who was undoubtedly just some asshole with too much time on his hands. Like the fact that that's a theory, and right now one of the most valid ones after like fucking 500 years of mystery, is just absolutely hilarious to me. It's really inspiring to me. The thought that I could just fully commit to something that is total fucking nonsense. Like some of the things that I write before my scripts sometimes that are just like absurd. And people could be talking about it hundreds of years from now. Is motivational to all the assholes like me out there with a talent for fucking with people. I could go over all these people who have claimed to translate it, of which there are many. But let me sort of recap it for you. They say, hey, I translated it. It's a crazy version of insert language here. And then the other people say, oh, okay, cool. So what's it say? And they're like, stuff about women and plants. And they're like, okay, so you didn't fully translate it then. Do you have a version of it? And they're like, no. And then the scientific community is like, rejected. Thanks. Nice try. You're full of shit. One dude submitted 30% of the manuscript translated, but it was mostly words that made absolutely no sense with his translation.
That's so sad.
So after he submitted it to a journal in like 2017, they're like, this makes no sense. And they rejected it and they refused to publish it. And then he stopped working on it, which to me doesn't really bode well for him being confident in the fact that he was right.
Yeah.
So it's just like, if you just like submit it at 30%, they're like, this is not good. And you're just like, I'm just going to stop now. You wouldn't give up on one of like the most mysterious manuscripts in the world if someone just told you in a magazine, like, yeah, we don't think this is right. You'd keep going.
A journal is not a magazine.
I wonder if the end of the book is like, if you figure out the cipher of the beginning, it's all gibberish. And then you get to the end, and the end actually gives you the real cipher to now use on what you have decoded at the beginning. It's like a double cipher. But that's just one of my fucking crazy theories, of which I have many. This is a book with no known author and no translation that shows plants and animals and stars and constellations and tubes and what Robin described earlier as chicks fingering tentacles.
Oh, yeah.
That's over 600 years old. That's all we know for sure. My personal theory is that it is a horticulture / star map from an extraterrestrial who left it here on accident when visiting the Earth. A hitchhiker's guide to the galaxy, if you will.
Oh.
And maybe that's what all the sightings of UFOs are all about. They're really just looking for this goddamn book because they know someone dropped it here and it's not supposed to be here.
It's not hard to find aliens. It's at Yale.
So there you go. Confirmed. Pretty sure this is 100% true. You're welcome, world. You're welcome, aliens. And that, I guess, since there's no definitive answer, is the Voynich manuscript.
Nice. I like that one. I like really, really random artifacts. And
there's just like the fucking most bizarre thing is to me is how long this thing has been talked about, how little we know about it, and the fact that I've never fucking heard of it was just like mind blowing to me. So now we all know about it. We can ponder together. And I will put a little asterisk at the end of this. Don't fucking at me. There are so many articles out there like so-and-so claims to finally have completely translated the Voynich manuscript. And it's all clickbait bullshit. I am not going to check on these things. I've looked into too many of them and they never have translations. It's all the same thing where they just say it's like, oh, it's a really old dialect of, and then insert whatever language you want there. It's the whole bit that I wrote is based off of how many fucking clickbait bullshit articles I've seen. So please don't send them to me. I don't need to see them again. But yeah, I really hope you folks enjoyed that because it was really fun to learn about and it's really fucking weird. So
thanks, babe.
You're welcome. All right. I think that's just about everything we have for episode 254. If you would like to share any of your stories with us, it does not have to be about mysterious manuscripts that you wrote for funsies to fuck with people. It doesn't have to be about cursed places, but if you want to send us stories about that, we'd love to hear it. It could be anything supernatural, paranormal, spiritual, coincidental, true crime, or extraterrestrial in nature. We would love to hear from you. So email storytime@scaryish.com or go to our website, scaryish.com, and click on Contact Us. Fill out that form. It comes directly to us. Or hit us up on our social medias. Twitter is @ScarishPod, Instagram is @ScarishPodcast, and Facebook is facebook.com/ScarishPodcast. Robin, for folks who'd like to donate to our Patreon, how can they do so?
You can go to patreon.com/ScarishPodcast. Tiers start at $1. At $10, you get, so you start getting like reward packages, things that Adam sends out without stamps on.
Hey man, if they find their way there, that is fucking weird.
No, it'll all end up back at our P.O. box and we'll have to figure out how to get it. But yeah, if you're not into the monthly donation type thing, you can also go to ko-fi.com/ScarishPodcast, and those are one-time donations. We really appreciate everyone who supports us, whether that is monetarily or, just sharing us with your friends, listening to us on road trips, listening to us on your daily commute, just hanging out with us, listening to us, being there with us.
If you can't donate, we get it. But this is the time to be January Patreon pushy and tell your friends and family, hey, start listening to Scaryish. The fuck is wrong with you?
No, don't say that. That's fucked up.
Tell them I told you it was okay.
No!
Seriously, don't do that. Just be nice and say, hey, I found this cool podcast. I'd love for you to listen to it. And we would love for folks to join us. So that is everything we have for this particular episode. We hope you all enjoyed it. Robin, do your thing and go ahead and sign us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.